Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for joining us today on this webinar. I'm delighted to see and interact with all of you. I see some familiar faces. Hope to see some of you come on board as our clients in the company. We're going to be discussing is the journey, how it was in 2020 and what's the way forward. How do we see the 2021? So these are the five areas on which I would be talking about, which is the year gone by, lessons from 2020. How do we see forward? What are the emerging trends that I would be discussing or presenting to you? And me personally, make a disclaimer. We would have definitely some vested interest, but that's the presentation here is largely for academic purpose. And I'll try and wrap it up in the next 45 minutes so that we have a good for 15-20 minutes for Q&A, so that we are done in the next 1 hour approximately. And lastly, the recording of this would be available on YouTube and would be shared tomorrow. So feel free to have a detailed look at it subsequently. So I might skip through some slides, so please bear with me on that. Okay, so there was this this debate about how fast the recovery would be, and therefore all the alphabets were doing the round, starting with a V and a L. L obviously meant that the recovery will take far longer, and a U and a W. W obviously means that your recovery is there, then that again goes back from where it started, then the final recovery. And then there was an alphabet K also, and many other alphabetical signs, stroke, Nike, swoosh, etc., etc. So let's see who. Okay, so there was this phase as well where we all would have seen on 13th March, for example, on the bottom, on the left top, you would see the somebody holding his head, because there were two consecutive circuits on the screen, and that happened like after 12 years. So somebody who's been in the market for more than 12 years would have seen that happen in 2008, but somebody who's come in the last couple of years would not have seen that. So it was an occasion, it was an experience, and it was a ride, and I'm sure most of us would have come out of it far better investors and investment professionals, having learned so much. What I'm trying to highlight is the right hand side, V-shaped recovery. This again, Moneycontrol took a survey, and they asked a lot of brokerage houses, and this is as late as July 10, 2020, and people said V-shaped recovery unlikely in the month of July, right? And that's as recent as that, but surprise, we have a V-shaped recovery, and we'll see in detail about it in subsequent slide. Also, just trying to highlight somebody as experienced and famous investor stroke investment advisor as Morgan Stanley. In when the index was at 40,000, obviously it crashed from 42 odd to 28,000. And on 25th March, when Sensex was at 20,500, they said the target was about 32,000 by December. And when as recent as 13th October, they said the target is, when index was at 40,000 plus, they said it's 37,000. And now when we are already at 44,000, then they have revised it upwards to 50,000. Obviously that is for December 21. So the larger point, without trying to say who's wrong, who's right, who's won it, who's not, larger point is nobody knows anything beyond a point. That's obviously a quote from one of my gurus that I look up to, Mr. Samir Arora. Let's don't put our heads trying to understand where is the Nifty headed, when is the recovery due. Let's stick to the basics, right? And believe in ourselves, believe in India, believe in God, and that's how money can be made and has been made in 2020. Biggest lesson, right? Let's look at the recovery. This is what happened between mid-Feb to end March, right? Vulnerability, volatility, weakness, void left meant that the index plummeted from 12,000 or to 7,500. The bottom it made on 23rd March. And obviously we are using V more often than W, so it's obviously it's done it with the purpose. So what are the companies now asking? They're asking, how much sales are there versus the pre-COVID levels, or if not, then when will your sales bounce back to pre-COVID levels? Okay, now the green part, the most interesting and the most brighter side of this alphabet, which is the green, which is the journey upwards. And what we took it up, it was a sense of victory, it was a sense of it was a concept of value buying, it was the visibility of unlock, visibility of medicine, visibility of vaccine, visibility of corporate India coming out unscathed, right? Visibility of the fertility rate in India being very, very less, visibility of that maybe in a worst case, early 2021 is where we might see this ending, and maybe after that it stops to a great extent. That's it. The moment you had visibility on that, and by visibility I don't mean 100% visibility. Obviously, even aeroplanes don't, flights don't land with 100% visibility when in the month of December and Jan. They are good to land 80 to 90% visibility more often than not. And so one needs to have a higher visibility to take decisions, and that's what happened month after month, starting May, June, July, and August, and subsequently. And lastly, the vibrant liquidity. Nobody can deny that it played its own role in both in US and globally over the world. Okay, so sharp recovery in sentiments, sharp recovery in earnings, the availability of vaccine, re-rating, because obviously you have multi-decade low interest rates, and digitally, everybody is digitally. Even as we speak today, most of our interactions is on Zoom. Our children are still doing their online classes, etc., etc. We are far more digitally savvy than we were, let's say, till Feb, and I think much of it will continue. India Inc. Fed. Let's say India is a stock, Reliance is a stock. Let's say India is a stock. How did it fare in the second quarter? Okay, so Nifty being a representation of India Inc., it delivered sales which were above estimates, were about 12 stocks, while inline were 32. So you can say the majority of them were either in line or higher. Same was in the case of EBITDA, which is operating profits, and at net level also 41 out of 50 stocks were either in line or above. 31 out of 50 were above estimates. I mean, you can't get a better picture than this. In BSE 200, surprise was that the net profit was up 15% thanks to an EBITDA jump of 9%. And this was despite a negative revenue growth, which obviously revenue had gone down because obviously we were still in a semi-lock situation. But still, what led to this, right? So our sense is when earnings is not only driven by sales growth, what also is a contributor is an operating margin expansion, which could either come from raw material softening or lower fixed cost, and both of it contributed, right? In some cases it was more of raw material softening. In other cases, variable cost, fixed cost काफी गिर गए थे. For example, the expenditure on promotion, advertising, travel, entertainment, right? Outdoor expenses, all of that, obviously corporate, that was the first to take a hit. तो आज के दिन में भी आप फ्लाइट्स का आपको देखेंगे, the number, it's still closer to what 60% of what they were, 60 to 70% of what they were doing. So there is still a 30-40% decline year over year as we speak. Obviously, interest cost and lower tax rate also contributed. So this was a very as good a picture as one can get. And second consecutive quarter, there was the earnings were much better. liquidity, earnings, and sentiment, three things that drive the market. And earnings played very, very important role. Liquidity obviously did, and sentiment obviously grew month on month, week after week, quarter after quarter. Sectorally, let's look at the picture. So there were spaces like cement, financials, healthcare, and metals, which shown the best, while spaces like consumer, NBFC, and oil and gas and IT were in line. But at a net level, what you see from a BSE 200 perspective, that revenue, even though it went down 7%, which is the bottom left, the bottom row, the EBITDA grew 9% and net profit grew 15%. So as I said, metals, healthcare, financials, and cement were the star performers here. This is again just trying to give a perspective of what were the contributors and what did not contribute. So net about 2/3 of the sectors did much better than the consensus earnings, while 20% was in line and only 15% was below. Okay, this is very interesting. We have been bogged down by, or in the sense inundated by GDP related news. So enough, and there are a lot of tweets which go around. So I've just taken one of them, where where economists have taken either selected data, which is, let's say, from 2010 to 2020, and tried to say that India is not growing, etc., or because we had 2 consecutive quarters of GDP decline, which means technically we were in recession. Therefore, kind of, the picture was being presented as if it was a doomsday, while the reality was far, far different from there. The reality was obviously that the GDP decline, which was expected to be for the full year, expected to be as high as 15%, went down to 10%, and now for the full year is expected to be closer to 7% decline. So that's the kind of upgrade in earnings that was done by the experts. Okay, so what does it mean for us? We need to understand what does it mean for us as investment professionals. So GDP obviously on a nominal level can be a broad indicator of how the revenue would go up or go down of corporate India. Largely, let's say BSE 200 being a barometer of how would that go up or down. That obviously had a different picture. So as I said, besides revenue growth, the other factors like margins, fixed cost rationalization, interest cost reduction, tax rate also plays its role. The larger point I'm making here is that even though the GDP degrew in 2Q, the net earnings of BSE 200, as we saw in the previous slide, grew about 15%. Therefore, the EPS growth for Nifty in the current financial year is not going to be as worrisome as was expected in the earlier years, and despite a revenue decline, we'll still be even though revenue was declined, we will still not be as a worrisome situation at a net profit level. So how seismic are the earnings change is what we're trying to highlight here. The earnings recovery in first quarter and second quarter has surprised the entire country, obviously. And we've seen this is one of the best seasons that we have seen after about 24 quarters. It's been the first quarter where, or probably the second consecutive quarter, that we are seeing an earnings upgrade for the full financial year, and the upgrade to downgrade ratio was a very bright 4:1. For every one downgrade, there was 4 upgrades. In terms of how we fared, the research and ranking portfolio earnings for current financial year, the Nifty EPS is expected to go down by 4%. Our universe is earnings are expected to go down by 2%, and likewise in the next fiscal years, if earnings is expected to go up for Nifty by 36, as the R&R universe is expected to be 45, and this is what we're trying to do at a portfolio level to ensure that the at least on the earnings side, which is more where you have a good control, at least there you should have the alpha should be visible, because the balance alpha can be generated through re-rating, and re-rating is something which happens over a period of time and which is largely a function of the market. So at least the earnings, which is in our control, our visibility, our grip, at least we get that right. And similarly in FY23, again you can see that there is a fair gap between our universe and what the Nifty earnings growth is expected to be. Just 1 second. Yeah. So I guess moving on to what a lot of people were curious what's really happening at the market last 2 months. Crazy, the Nifty is up 13-14%, maybe more. Nifty Bank is up more than 25%. So the fact was that the FIs bought over $8 billion of equity, and half of it was BFSI, and this was again money coming in from the huge liquidity that was available globally, and a good chunk of it came to emerging markets, and India was a big beneficiary. And mid and small cap indexes, they also delivered very strong performances. And finally the bank index obviously had to catch up at some time, and also 2Q numbers suggested that it's not as bad in balance sheet and growth as it was thought out to be pre-July, when the moratorium numbers were still being understood. By October, November, it was largely clear that BFSI is not as affected, and hopefully things will be in a better shape. The other reasons, obviously, as I said, the GDP forecast, the decline was much lower, and the expected pullback next year is now expected at almost 9% versus 8% earlier. The data points improved month after month consistently. The fear of virus seemed to be low, and as we discussed, the interest rate environment is expected to be lower. Okay, so let's look at some of the points in detail. I'll spend a minute each quickly on these slides, which is the first being that what led and what is the sustainability of this. So I'm sure you'll agree that the virus is no longer a threat as it was before, and I'm sure you'll agree that it will be the same in the next couple of months, couple of quarters, till all of us get a shot on our arms. There's enough done, and this is obviously slightly dated, but there is, even beyond this, there is enough progress being made, starting with UK and US, where people have actually started getting the vaccines. And that's now started happening in US and India. We have already started. Government of India has already started preparing to ensure that starting with the healthcare workers, and then the frontline, and then age bracket, like 50 to 60 years or more, they get priority, and we get. And I'm sure by now all of you would agree that anytime in Jan Feb, even India would be starting its mass vaccination. It could be as early as Jan. It will start getting its dosages, as I said, in that priority. Things are moving very, very rapidly in that regard. The importance of data points improving month after month cannot be ignored, and that is what happened. See, railway freight, you can see almost the highest in the last 12 months. So has been GST collections over 1 lakh crore, the highest. Manufacturing PMI, almost the best as it could be, at 56 and 59 in the last 2 months. Services PMI again at 54, which is again the highest or second highest in the last calendar year. And passenger vehicles, this you would have seen month after month, and we'll see in detail. But passenger vehicles was a very, very positive surprise, especially from especially from some of the small car manufacturers. So these were the high frequency data points, which suggested things are improving, like energy consumption. You can easily gauge it from the traffic on the road. The capital goods production has been on the rise. The people on the street are venturing out more, and there's no better. We ourselves would be going out, and we can see the amount of traffic, and vouch for it that this data is obviously right. Consumer good production is going up. The retail auto sales are recovering, and obviously the fuel consumption, the queues at the petrol pumps and is back as much as what we would have seen in Jan and Feb. So that all of that in itself, so when we venture out and look at the crowd on the streets, and in itself gives us a flavor. Okay, number two is the auto sales. Auto sales in itself is a good barometer of how things are moving at the ground level. This obviously, whatever I'm saying has been happening either in the last month or two, or is expected to continue, and therefore I'm just highlighting. For example, if you look at the two-wheelers, the growth has been very good. Some almost double digit, right? By except Honda, rest everyone delivered a double-digit growth YY in the month of November. In passenger vehicles, it was largely the same. Again, positive. See the positivity around, and this is after a very very good October, despite a very very good October, because October had that Dussehra and Diwali sales. Despite that, November was great. Commercial vehicles was a very positive surprise because it also delivered positive. And see, the moment commercial vehicle sales turn positive, you can, and that is a very good barometer of how the economy is bouncing back, right? And if it is in positive, you can say things are as close to normal or as close to 100% as they were earlier. In fact, it should be better because obviously the numbers are in positive. Anybody buying a commercial vehicle, वो इसीलिए खरीदेगा क्योंकि उसको पता है कि he has enough orders in his hand, enough truckload to be delivered over the next couple of months, now couple of quarters. Otherwise, people will not take vehicle financing to buy a commercial vehicle from a agent, from a commercial vehicle agency, or even from an individual. The drivers, obviously rural strength, the gradual recovery in GDP, low interest rates, and better financing availability. These were some of the features that were the drivers. Okay, this is what I'm sure everybody would be looking forward to, which is okay. यहाँ सब तक तो ठीक था, 2020 निकल गया, अब आगे क्या क्या करना है हमें? What are some of the things that you're looking forward to? One is a trend that we thought should be right up there in terms of highlighting it to you, that people have and are still buying home, even though they're sitting at home, or even the work from office is still not as great as it was earlier. But still, I'm saying people are investing in homes, and again that shows the confidence that they have. And there's not only in India, this is US as well. So US, the pickup in home sales is at the highest pace in the last 14 years, and the inventory is only 2.5 months, which in a normal period is 4 to 5 months, which means at any point of time 4 to 5 months की inventory उनके पास हमेशा रहती है at a system level, जो अभी is less than 2.5 months, which is very very surprising. And just to take an example of Mumbai, because of reduction in stamp duty rates, because of multi-year low interest rates, the property prices had not risen. The registrations in Mumbai were record high. In fact, they were the highest in November for the last since 2012. That shows the amount of confidence that people have in terms of investing their hard-earned money. And obviously, आप बोलोगे ये सब तो ठीक है, रियल एस्टेट में तो हमें इन्वेस्ट करना नहीं है, ना डायरेक्टली ना stock wise, तो करना क्या है? So obviously there are enough sectors like housing finance companies, like building material companies, like paint companies, like electrical companies, like PVC pipe companies, right? Through which we can still play this theme, right? And I'm just highlighting one of the things. I'm here not again trying to recommend. I'm just highlighting one of the themes that we thought would continue to dominate in the next couple of quarters, couple of years. Second is obviously the India ink shedding its old skin. Means when the you would have seen when the snake shed its skin and it takes up the new skin. the inner skin comes out, it is a much brighter, revitalized, so much fresh, that appeal or a view that you would get. Same as, corporate India is not sitting idle. The message is they are using this opportunity to let go of the flab, let go of any mistakes or any bad decisions they may have made in the past, and to correct it. Example, Wipro is had some 21, 20 up to 25 PNLs. They have cut it down to 5. They got a new CEO from Capgemini, Rishit Premji, the son of Mr. Premji. Azim Premji is taken in charge, and they are saying we're going to focus on return on capital growth, etc., etc. We're going to be back to we're going to endeavor to take up that position where we were, let's say in 1990s, when actually they were at neck to neck with Infosys. Today they are half of Infosys in terms of market cap. Mahindra, another example, 10 years they've hardly made money at a group level. They have acknowledged in public that their shareholder returns have significantly underperformed Nifty in the last 5 years, in the last 10 years, and then they want to desperately reclaim the king of the jungle title, because they believe that they can do it, and they're focusing on return capital growth, and most importantly, incremental capital. It should be put judiciously, and whatever is non-core, they would try and remove it, or hive it off, like what they have put on the block is recently Sanyong. Motherson Sumi, they postponed their Vision 2025 meeting, but when they did it very, very aggressively. The message was loud and clear. They want to triple their revenues. They want to increase their margins tremendously. They want to have non-auto businesses up to 25%. They want to have ROCE of 40%, all of it by 2025. They normally present 5-year visions, except the last 5-year plan. They have achieved most of the other early 5-year plans. And this time around, they have given a very, very aggressive targets. And Tata Steel obviously wants to hive off. So these are from the larger names. I'm just trying to highlight how some of the larger names are trying to use this opportunity to ensure that they move on with a much better speed and agility than they have done in the past. And obviously the mid and small caps would be even faster. Okay, next is the theme I wanna put across to you, and this is by no means exhaustive. You would see day in day out in your kirana store, in the mall you would visit, in at your home itself, right? At your own home, we would have devised so many ways of doing a task which we would have been done differently. So, for example, a brand called Dairy Day, they launched a Chyawanprash based flavored ice cream. Dabur obviously had the immunity kit. Asian Paints were having their guys coming in wearing PPE kit, etc. And obviously there was a bread launched by Immuno, by Modern, where they said it will help fight the virus. And Orient Electric had innovated, and they came out with a oven type of a machine in which you put any object, any edible or non-edible object, and it would get sanitized. So that was innovation, right? Innovation at its best, and it's not stopped. It will continue. That was the larger message I was trying to make, and obviously it helps drive change, drive sales. Next is small and mid cap. I'm sure a lot of you would be waiting for this to happen, because 2016, 2017, we had the best period in the last couple of, in fact, a decade. And starting Jan 18, it's almost 3 years now, and they are still struggling. But this calendar year, and especially the last 8-9 months, it has made a smart comeback, and our sense is much of it will continue in the coming a year or two. How do I say that? You can look at the top in the bar on the right. The chart, the top one is a mid cap, and the bottom one is a small cap. When you compare the line with the long-term trend with a 10-year average, वो अभी भी उस average से नीचे है, both the mid cap as well as the small cap. In fact, the small cap is lower by a higher margin versus the mid cap. So it shows versus the Nifty, the ratio is skewed in favor of if mid and small cap. Obviously, one has to trade with caution because यहाँ पे companies, one is the opportunity is so big. So one has to be really be cognizant of the fact that things can go wrong. So let's say out of 5,000 listed companies, as per SEBI's definition, the top 100 would get classified as large cap, the next 150 as mid cap, and the rest others as small cap. So obviously, the basket is so high that you have to be very careful while choosing. But obviously, we are trying to ensure that we give the best stocks recommendations when we do that in our universe. So far, from the bottom of March 23rd, the Nifty is up 77%, the Nifty mid cap is up 87%, and the small cap is up 102%. That's a reasonable beat. I would say a reasonable beat. A significant beat would have been if it would have been even higher than this, which has happened in 2017 and 2018. And our sense is that there is a high possibility that can happen in the next calendar year. So even though since Jan 18 the Nifty is up 20%, but the small cap is still 30% down from that level, and the mid cap index is slightly higher is about 5% up since then. So there is still a gap there which can be bridged. It doesn't mean that we go out and tomorrow and buy all small caps. As I said, one has to be really be choose in terms of looking at उनकी leadership position क्या है, उनका market share क्या है, उस products में उनका right to win क्या है, liquidity क्या है, and how good are the sustainability of the earnings that they have. And obviously, many sectors made a smart comeback, including IT, who are now on a hiring spree. Banking, as we discussed, is out of the woods. Retailers, I mean, the Flipkart, Amazon, everybody had such a bright sales this year. It was just like hitting the ball out of the park. So, for example, Amazon delivered over 90 to over 99% pin codes in India. I mean, that's like unbelievable. While rural was at its best, and I think one of the themes that we are betting on and we are very positive is the manufacturing theme. You combine it with the PLI scheme that government of India has brought in, and they will bring in for more subsectors. The China plus one sourcing strategy, put everything together, industrial activity picking up, then itself gives abundant opportunity. And this is not a year or two; it will be there for at least a couple of years. And another one that I want to highlight is the direct investing versus mutual fund. This is again a trend we would see on a day-to-day basis. So the number of demat accounts which used to open about 4 lakhs on an average monthly till 2019 are now 9 to 10 lakhs. In fact, there was a month in between where it was almost 13 lakhs, and it is about closer to 10 lakhs now monthly. So it's 2.5 times the monthly run rate of the previous years. At the same time, the equity mutual funds, the outflow is increasing. So पिछले महीने नवंबर के महीने में कुछ 13,000 करोड़ की selling हुई है. 13,000 crores of selling has been done. So it kind of balances. People are getting either they are venturing, they want to take risk, or they are more informed investors. And I'm sure most of us are here in this forum, and therefore they are taking this plunge of investing directly and not choosing a mutual fund route. Good, bad. I think it or for the better. I think it all depends individual to individual. But as we say, there should be some exposure, some or a higher exposure from individuals in the equity market directly. That is how you get the flavor, and that is how you become an informed investor and see your wealth growing by your own decisions. So this is about it in terms of the trends. What are the catalysts going forward? Again, this is a very important point. I'm sure you would be looking forward to. So low interest rates, 6.75%. Home loan rates, I have not seen it. The best I saw was 7% in 2000 and 6. I have not seen 7% being broken. Today, anybody can get at 6.75% or closer to that rate from a number of banks. And obviously, it had the loan component has to be let's say 75 lakhs or more, and obviously with a good CIBIL score. Crude prices low to stable, there to stay, good for India. Savings from rationalization and fixed cost, some of it will stay, and that's sticky, good for corporate India, right? I'm sure much of the travel that we were doing, pura ka pura वापस नहीं आ जाएगा. Some of it will get permanently shifted to Zoom, and therefore we'll have savings there. Corporate tax rates, government has cut. Land, labor, agri, now reforms they are bringing in, that's also good. Stable to weak dollar, very important. The last secular bull run we had seen in 2004 to 2008, the dollar was flat or weak. And this is very important for an emerging economy like India to be there. So far, it's been there, and as long as that's there, it's good for India. And earnings growth has to be in double digit for two consecutive quarters, two consecutive years. I'm sorry, for a sustained rally to be there or strength to be there, and it seems like we should be there in that zone, which is March 22 fiscal and March 23 fiscal. Lastly, the market cap to GDP at 85% in March 21 basis and 75% on 22 basis compares with the average of 75% in the last 15 years. So we have not crossed the Lakshman Rekha still. We are still there or below it. In fact, we are right there when you look at March 22 earnings. And while the peak was 95% in FY08, so we still have a cushion when it comes to market cap to GDP. So that's some of the catalyst going forward. And I was asked to put across what are some of the dilemmas that investors have. Anybody has anything beyond this, we can discuss in Q&A. What's the right time to invest? Which sectors to choose? What's the allocations toward mid and small cap? I think the first one, right time to invest. I think Peter Lynch put it brilliantly that far money has been lost by investors preparing for corrections or trying to anticipate corrections than what we have lost in corrections themselves. So the reason point is obviously if index fell from 11,000 to 8,000, the amount of money that we have lost, obviously we have recouped by now, but the moment it touched 11,000 and we've been waiting for correction, and all that opportunity between then and now, because of waiting for correction, it's been lost. So that's very important, and we've been highlighting it in most of our webinars. Sector rotation, I think, very difficult to catch, but you can say with confidence that at some point or the other, 2 months obviously has been in favor of realty, metals, and BFSI. Obviously, one need not try to time it, but as long as one has a reasonable exposure to all of these sectors, one will be able to participate. Is point number one. And the other point I'm making is that some from the larger sectors, they would come back and participate in the rally and not miss out. Nobody will miss out if they have a BFSI. So even if people had investors had an underperformance because they were reasonably exposed to banking and financial services in August, they were suitably rewarded in the last 2 months. So I'm just, as I said, we will be discussing some stocks more from academic purpose. Just to highlight here that Berger Paints, despite doing nothing in between 2006 and 2010, which was one of the glorious periods in Indian capital market, and Berger Paints revenue grew 17%, profit 13%, stock did nothing. But in every subsequent 4 years, the price has compounded 30% or more, while the profit has compounded only about less than 20%. So that is the point I'm trying to highlight here is that there may be a phase where the stock does nothing, couple of months, couple of weeks, couple of quarters. In fact, here it is couple of years. But as long as the space is good, the company that we are we are talking about is amongst the top 3 or maybe even a worst case top 5 in that space, has a moat, is doing very well, is backed by solid management, has no corporate governance issues, etc., etc. And the management is focused on delivering, on putting on the vision that they have forecast, and proper, capital allocation policies there. It will be rewarded. It will be rewarded, right? And you can't get a compounding of 30% or more in many stocks. So again, patience pays. Another stock which is, people are familiar, Bajaj Finance. Similar thing. The profit grew, loan book grew, but the price only grew 10%. Again, the same good time 2006 to 2010. But once that phase was over, right, the profit, the stock price grew at a compounded growth of 40%, between 40 and 70% in most of those subsequent 4-year periods. Again, patience pays. As long as we know the group is good, the space is nice, the company is amongst the top 3, has laid down a good vision, we have the confidence it will deliver on the vision, has been delivering in the past, and the capital allocation policy is good. There is no reason why we should panic. And obviously these are from larger names, but still, that's the point. Okay, we also have now let me just talk about Deepak Nitrite first, which is amongst the, I mean, वो तो आप बड़े नाम हैं उसमें, you might say there's so much of interest, etc., etc. Let's talk of a stock called Deepak Nitrite. Very attractive space, chemical, specialty chemicals. We have in many of our clients' portfolio. We had identified to our clients when the price was less than 300, and today it's over 850. And based on the fact that the strong technical skills, diversified product portfolio, the focus was on downstream derivatives, and there was opportunity for Indian chemical players. I believe that was what attracted us to this name, and it has delivered. So this is again, as I said, all the boxes getting ticked. Where is the space? The company is the leader. The promoter is we can take confidence. Capital allocation policy, vision being laid down, and the company has delivered in the past. Once you get all those boxes ticked, there you have a winner in hand, and this is a winner that we have had. So this, I'm just trying to highlight of how we go about selecting we look at necessarily the last 10 years data of how the company has delivered before we take any view on the company. This is just to, again, as an example for academic purpose, we have a product called Mispriced Opportunity, MPO. And just an example, the last stock that we had under that basket has delivered over 40% in less than 5 months. The space was struggling. There was unlock which had started in June and subsequently July, August, September, but somehow it was still not reflecting because it took its own sweet time. Obviously, जैसे ही unlock हुआ, we would not have gone down to the nearest pawn shop to ask for a bottle of Mirinda or a Pepsi or a Tropicana or Aquafina. It took its own time. People took time to come out on the street and start drinking. इसमें out of home consumption is very, very high versus in home consumption. The percentage revenue. So for example, 70% or more of Pepsi's revenue would be driven by people on the street, and less than 30% is people within homes, and there would be a little bit of consumption in restaurants and bars, etc. So when there are no people on the street, on the road, on the highway, obviously the sales were not there. But as and when based on our channel checks, and reading and understanding and listening to experts, we got that confidence that footprints are increasing. The sales are increasing in the malls, in kirana stores, and the pan wala shops. We had taken a view that this is a good opportunity, and we recommended at 688, and we have recently exited with a good 40% plus upside under the mispriced opportunity. This product is only for investors who are looking at 6 to 12 months of duration and upside of 25 to 50%. So it is for a particular, our flagship product continues to be 5 in 5, which is for long-term investors, which is our bread and butter. Okay, so quickly, what's our investment philosophy, stock selection? Currently, we in a stable portfolio, or let's say you can also call it conservative. We would have 60% allocated to large caps, and portfolio here we're talking of 20 to 22 stocks. Mid caps would be about 40%. In a more balanced portfolio, we would have about 50% towards mid caps, and in an aggressive portfolio, we would have mid caps up to 60%. So that's how it would be tailored, and it would keep on going up or down depending on the situation or the ground reality. We also would have some amount of allocation to stocks, to spaces like paints, staples, auto, which are the all weather, where growth rate in the historical, let's say 10, 15, 20 years has been 10, 15, 20%. और वो अगले हमें कॉन्फिडेंस है कि अगले 5, 7, 10 साल भी ऐसे ही रहने वाला. तो that's about up to 60% what we call all weather, where there are some categories like a chemical or a mid cap IT or pharma, right? Or let's say select NBFCs which will be in the business momentum. That would be about 40 to 50%, and the last 10% will be circle of opportunity, where we're looking at special turnaround cases. So that's a basket. That's what we call the ABC of investing, all weather, business momentum, so that we get a good flavor of what kind of invest, or what kind of stocks that would be there in the portfolio. And this is broadly a gist of the sectoral weightages that's being assigned today. 20% or more is toward banking and financial services. Is we slightly either equal or underweight, but this will keep on increasing the moment things are good at a ground level. And the balanced part of the economy, where there might be certain challenges today. IT media is up to 15%. Agro and agro and chemical is about, pharma is about 15%, and discretionary, including auto, is about 20%. So ballpark, plus minus, this is how a typical portfolio we would allocate today. Lastly, what we typically advocate is in terms of market at 13,500, how to. There's no reason why we should look at Nifty beyond a point. Obviously, looking at the market it makes sense, but let's say it's like a monsoon season in Mumbai, or let's say what's happening in Delhi right now, which is the season of cold. Beyond a point, हम सुबह वेदर उठ के forecast देख लेंगे, but उसके बाद ऐसा तो नहीं है कि हम we will take a decision which is so far drastic, which will alter our. We might just take an additional wind cheater, or wear an additional pair of goggles, or take an additional umbrella, or a raincoat, right? Or instead of taking a bike in a Delhi road, we might take a car, or we might just put a defogger on. But जो भी करना है वो करके we will move on, right? Life has to move on. Therefore, investing has to move on. Nifty at 10,000 or 13,000 or 15,000 or 20,000 doesn't matter. We have to be invested with a positive view, that obviously with an emerging economy like India, and by doing what we advocate is staggered. Somebody coming in new, putting in a good chunk in the market today, what he can do is stagger his buying, right? If not putting entirely now, maybe put 1/3 now. Balance 2/3 could be done at any fall, like it was there yesterday, or let's say doing it in tranches in the weeks or months to come. Stock specific approach. Nifty देके क्या होना beyond a point? 50 stock हैं, ऊपर नीचे होते रहेंगे. We have a good Nifty 500 basket, and there are 20 stocks attractive at any point of time which we can look at there, right? हमें तो वो 20-25 stock ही देखने हैं उसमें से, and there, believe me, there are enough stocks from which to choose those 20-25 at any point of time. Goes without saying, long-term approach, stay focused, and let's not try to time the market, but ensure that we are there when the time is right. So, for example, the time was right to be invested in the market and not to have panicked and taken out money. In fact, we were amongst the ones who advocated not to sell even one, not to even sell 1% of the portfolio. We would have done obviously some reallocation of moving from category A to category B, stock C to stock D in the month of March, April, and May. But we would have never panicked and said, let's sit on cash, let's do 20% cash out and sit for it for a couple of months and then try and it doesn't work like that. I mean, we have seen that. You would have seen that yourself. Okay, let me just leave this as a parting thought, what we call food for thought. Uh, any lessons that we can learn from lions? They lie low most of the time, which is most of the day. And when they go out for hunting, they do it with full energy. That's what again we would say that be patient, be calm, be invested for long term. And when you wanna strike, strike it with full confidence and vengeance and with the right attitude. And we had enough opportunities in the last 6 months, and I'm sure there will not be as may not be as big an opportunity, but whatever select opportunities we get, like it was there yesterday, and you've seen much of it is, or at least half of it has been recovered today. We are ready to encash on that. So and they don't get I mean, even the lions don't get their hunt right all the time. They succeed only in 25%. So if they go out for hunting 4 times in on 4 days in a week, they would only get successful only once. So we need not get right in all our stroke. Obviously, a strike rate cannot be 25%, but as long as it's more than 50%, and as long as in that 50% we have made enough multi-baggers, we are home with that 25-30% compounding. It can be achieved. And another thing is when they strike, the lions prefer hunting most from dusk to dawn, and this is when no one is expecting most of the other animals. Here again, the idea here is that uh, the when the market is at its the fear is at its peak, that's the time to really do much of your shopping, rather than when the fear has evaporated in its entirety. And lastly, they also hunt in groups. They also rely on lionesses to do the hunting. And obviously this is where advisors, experts like us come into the picture, where we would like to hold hands of or do a collaborative approach in taking our investors towards that desired objective of delivering long-term wealth creation. That's where we would like to play our role uh, in that journey towards investor education and wealth creation. So that's I guess where I would take a halt. It's been a good 55 minutes. I exceeded that by a couple of minutes. And we Harsh mentioned we've celebrated 15,000 happy customers very recently. So in to kind of in to celebrate that, we would be sharing the recording of this webinar tomorrow with people who are participating and even others who registered but couldn't participate. So please look forward to checking your emails tomorrow morning with regards to looking at the recording of through a YouTube, and as well as day after, when you would get a email where you would be eligible to get a very attractive combo price, or some kind of exciting offer that might hit your inbox day after. So please don't forget to look at that as well. That's where I stop, and I would request to Harsh to look into the chat box and ask for questions from the participants.
Thanks a lot, Jaspreet. I'm sure it was extremely helpful for all our listeners. So let me start with a very basic question. What if there is a second wave of COVID, or what we are seeing from in the news the last couple of days? the new strain that has come from UK. In case there is implementation of lockdown once again, what would happen?
Okay, so this one is easy. We don't see a situation of a lockdown anymore. The reason is simple that the we have seen that beyond a point it doesn't serve a purpose. That's point number one. Point number two is medicine has been made available as early as July and August, and people have recovered. The fatality rate is very low, and vaccine is now available, and as we discussed, it will be available in India as early as January. So there is no reason why we'll go into a lockdown. That's point number one. Point number two is if there is a second wave, I guess we've been at as humans, as individuals, as Indians, we have been now living our lives having fully been aware with that the virus is still there in the air and in the system, and we still continue to live our daily lives. I think there might be select how would I say the restrictions being imposed by government. Let's say the Maharashtra government last night imposed restrictions starting today till the 5th of January. We call it a night curfew to 11 p.m. and 5 a.m. But that I think we were kind of anticipating it because the number of footfalls, the kind of gap, the distance, the kind of precautions one should have been taken in a restaurant or a pub or a such a crowded place was not being done. So we had no choice but to do that. I think things like these would be there, but I don't see a reason why something as drastic as a complete shutdown of a city or of a state would be there. So select restrictions on particular category of establishments, like what's there, as I said, in the night curfew, or for example, the government has said restrictions on flights to UK, restrictions on people coming in from UK or from other European nations or from Middle East, and they have to home quarantine themselves. इस तरह की छोटी, I mean, इस तरह की कुछ चीजें चलती रहेंगी, and I don't see a reason ये बहुत जल्दी चला जाएगा. ये 2-4 महीने और रहने वाला है. Till the time much of that 30 crore Indians get vaccinated, which is that number that the government has identified to be done at phase one. So I think life will continue, or let me put it this way: 90% of the activities will continue, or as what it's being done today.
The next question is asked by Mr. Rastogi. He says companies' earnings and margins have improved due to the cost control measures they have taken. His question is, how sustainable are these cost control measures taken up by companies? And are these margin expansions sustainable?
Fantastic question. Thank you. Thank you, sir, for asking that question. So, as we discussed, variable cost and fixed cost saving. So, on the variable cost, one might argue that the raw material prices have started going up, whichever, let's say, backed by crude or even metal prices. We see the auto industry crying, or let's say complaining that the metal prices have gone up so much that they are forced to increase prices or absorb some of those cost pressures. So you're right. Variable cost or the gross margin expansion cannot be there for most part of the next coming quarters, but at least some part of it will be there. I would say in this case, let's say up to about 10 to 20% gross margin expansion should be there to sustain. But what is there from a larger magnitude, which is sustainable, is what I see is the operating leverage, which is a fixed cost margin expansion, right? Because what we have seen is that companies have acknowledged that they will not go back to the same 100 rupee they were spending on advertisement, sales promotion, out of office, entertainment, travel, tourism, free goods or freebies that they were offering, internal employee, internal office expenditure they were doing. They are not going to go back to the same 100 rupee they were spending. They might go back to as much as 80 rupees, right? As low as 70 or at max 90. But 10, 15, 20, 25 रुपए फिर भी बचना चाहिए in the next calendar year, right? Compared to, or let's say the 2021 calendar versus the 2019 calendar, right? Assuming 2019 calendar was a full year where 100 rupee was being spent on fixed cost. Here I'm talking about the so-called discretionary fixed cost, जो हमें staff cost cannot be lowered, and जहां जहां पे भी salary cuts हुए थे या जो भी impact से, all of 99% of the places they have been reversed back, so that is saving is no longer there. That was available only for a couple of months. On the discretionary part of other expenditure, right there, the saving in 2021, some of it will sustain. Therefore the 2021 operating margin will be far better than what it was in 2019 calendar. It depends sector to sector, zyada difference hoga. Some sectors may have a much higher impact, and some may have a very nominal impact, but benefit for sure will be seen in 2021 calendar versus 2019 calendar.
So Jasmeet, there is a question which is asked by almost 4 people. How do you view the market crash that happened yesterday? Was it just a correction for one day? Is it going to continue? And if I have to invest right now, should I be waiting for some more correction to happen?
Okay, yeah, I think that I was just waiting for this question. So I think yesterday's correction 3%, today's pullback 1%. I think such occasions will be there in the foreseeable future. Simply because the amount of news flow that's there, and some of it disruptive or discouraging or negative will obviously play its role. So let's say another variant of the virus being discovered in UK, and that much of the European nations have closed borders with UK. India has stopped flights from UK, right? And this is not this variant is not being may not be effective with the same vaccine. That was all of that fear was what was being being that the reason behind this correction yesterday. And the larger the another important thing is that what you would have noticed is that much of that correction was to names which had gone up 50 to 100% in the last 3 months, right? If a stock is going up 50% or more in a matter of 3 months, and the market has gone up 20% or less, obviously there would be some amount of profit booking. So there the damage, or there the impact was much larger. So and some of the spaces like discretionary flights, hotel tourism, high beta names, including NBFCs, there I think the impact was much, and mid and small caps impact was much larger. That was point number one. Point number two is how to envisage or look forward to the next 2 or 3 months. I think whether the correction is 1% each day over 3 days in a particular week, or it just happens in one shot of 3% like it happened yesterday, this will be very routine in the next coming weeks. The idea is to be aware of what stock we need to buy. हमें कौन सा stock अच्छा लगता है, हमें कौन सा stock अपने portfolio में रखना है from a long-term wealth creation perspective. Just identify that stock and just the objective is कि वो उस पे ज़्यादा ध्यान रखें, right? So let's say market corrected 4%, but that stock is now available at has corrected 10%. Why would I wait for another 10% correction and then start nibbling in? We would recommend to start nibbling in the moment there is a reasonable correction. And when I say reasonable, I mean 10% in that particular stock. And let's say it corrects more, and then you would nibble in more, right? So let's not wait for that big correction of 20% in the market and then 30% or more in a stock. And therefore, that becomes an eternal waiting game. And we've seen that. You would have agreed with me. That was true. We said this when you can go back and listen to our webinars on YouTube. We said the same thing at 10,000. We said it at 11,000. We said it at 12,000. there's no point doing that waiting game, right? Market's not going to wait for us, and be generous or benevolent in terms of giving out a stock at 20% lower. Just have a sense of what's the right stock that we want to have in our portfolio, as long as it's available as attractive valuations, as long as we are staggering our investments, as long as we are taking a long term approach. डरने का नहीं है boss. Simple.
The next question is for Janet. While India has shown negative growth in GDP due to certain policies, do you think in the coming time these policies of government to encourage any correction in the market? Will there be any such? Will government try to ensure there's some correction in the market to ensure it just doesn't jump up so fast?
Nice. Sorry, I still didn't get the question. So will the government of India do enough to ensure that the GDP comes back to positive?
Yes. And the markets move up only in line with the way GDP is going up.
I don't think government will try to influence the market so much so as to tailor around with that. But I think the government has done, full credit to them. They have done enough in terms of providing direct, indirect liquidity stimulus, whatever is required to ensure that the economy comes back, and full credit to them, and also to people like you and me. We can clap and put pat on our back that we have been. And for example, we at Research Ranking we have been working with about 20% attendance from starting from June, and as we speak, it's as good as an 80%. I mean, obviously we take our shifts, but I mean that's the nature. Except tourism, except hotel, except airlines, except multiplex, except malls, and within malls also the entertainment zones, right? Restaurants, pubs, bars, rest. And believe me, this is less than 10%. It's less than 7% of GDP. 93% of GDP life is either 80% normal in terms of the revenue, 90%, 100%, or even at 120%. So there is no reason why we should fret. Coming back to the point, I think Q2 was negative 7.5. Q3 was obviously minus 25. Q3, our sense is GDP should be in a worst case it should be a -1 or be. In fact, there are more chances of being a positive, mildly positive. And in a worst case, it doesn't turn out to be mildly positive. I think Q4 has to be a high single digit positive for the year as a whole, for us to be closer to that 7% decline that we are or most of the experts are looking at.
So the next question is very interesting. Will it be too optimistic to say that we may end the FY21 year with a positive GDP growth?
Yeah, right. So that's what I said. Yeah, Q4. No, not the full financial year. I'm sorry if you meant the full financial year positive. I don't think that's going to be the case. I mean, we can be optimist, but there has to be a sense of we got to be realistic as well. And the reason is simple. See, first quarter minus 25, second quarter minus 7.5, third quarter at best +1 or +2%, right? Or let's say -2 to +2%. That range is good enough for us to take it forward. Q4 we can take a +5%. In optimistic base, you can, I mean, if you want to be really optimistic, we can take a +10% as well, because Q4 last year the damage started and we have a low base as well. But when you kind of do a weighted average of all of this, it'll still be negative. So instead of a -7, we might be -5 for the current financial year, but it'll still be a -5 for the full financial year. Q4 obviously will be is a positive, and if things were to go in the right direction, we might be 6, 7, 8% positive.
There are two questions, and I'll merge them into one. The first question was asked by Ryan. Why are FII is pouring so much money into India? And the second part of the question, which is asked by Pushkar, will the liquidity levels created by US Fed lead to a bubble like it happened in 2007, 2008?
Okay, so why are FIs pumping so much money? So yeah, I touched upon it briefly. There is good amount of liquidity being printed, being pumped in the US and European economies. So just to put things in perspective, the amount of funding that's been done is a well over $12 trillion by now, when which is close to three times over three times the gap that has been there, which is close to $4 trillion or less in terms of the GDP decline or the so-called opportunity lost. Um, uh, that's one, and obviously it doesn't seem to be stopping. Yesterday, Senate in US, they passed about another $0.9 trillion, and it's being said that once the new president comes takes power in Jan, another $2 trillion is there to be rolled out. So I think such liquidity would obviously in after a couple of months, weeks, makes way into emerging economies and including in India. So that's obviously there, and obviously FIs have pumped in to the allocation based on their regional indexes. They have pumped in 8 billion, and half of it, as I said, is gone to BFSI. And to the second question, I think I mean, yeah, I mean, it there may be certain repercussions of so much of liquidity being pumped, but I think whatever had happened in 2007-8, unless one was overly exposed in select sectors or overly exposed in select small caps or particular category, I think people, in a matter of 2 years, I think people had recovered, or in fact they had surpassed whatever they had lost, or what they surpassed the previous high. So I think it's just a matter of a year or two, and then much of that gets absorbed and gets leveled out. It's not that, I mean, it's not that the a particular Nifty will remain there for next 5 years. The index will remain, or even for that matter, unless it's a cyclical sector, it's not even that a particular index will remain there for the same level for the next 5 years. So no reason to be scared beyond a point on this aspect.
The next question is very interesting. Are we going to see a 12 Nifty at 12,000 first, or are we going to see it at 15,000 first?
So I think what's the I mean, just to put it in parlance, or giving an example of, as I always do, इंडिया को अगर वनडे मैच जीतना है ऑस्ट्रेलिया से, राइट, लेट्स से वी चेजिंग 350 एंड वी right, in a one day international, let's say we're chasing 350 and we are cruising at whatever 150 for one. पहले क्या आएगा, पहले मतलब, and just as an example, पहले मतलब 250 for 4 आएगा या 250 for 1 ही रहेगा, right? Will we be able to cruise through that chase very smoothly, or will it be a difficult chase? Difficult in the sense that, if it's 150 for 1 now, by the time we reach 350, will it be against 8 wickets, or it will be only against 3 or 4 wickets, right? So ultimately, अगर directionally हमें वहीं पहुंचना है, it is just a journey, right? See, journey is something why beyond a point we will not have control, right? So let's I mean, I can tell you, I can tell you that it will be this number first or that number first, but beyond a point, let's accept it. It doesn't have any merit or any importance, right? As long as we believe कि ultimately index जो अभी 13,500 है, 30,500 है, if our analysis goes right, we should be between and 15, and example, I'm just saying, if we're saying that we should be anywhere between 15,000 to 16,000, right? by the same time that we speak in the next calendar year, right? As much as 16,000 or as low as 15,000, right? How, I mean, it beyond a point, it doesn't matter whether it touches 14,000 first and then comes to 12,000, or it comes to 12,000 first and then directionally 12,000 aa gaya. We are, if we have cash, we will invest more. We'll have less cash, we'll invest less cash. We don't have any cash, we'll sit comfortably waiting for that pullback to happen, and go towards see where our ultimate objective is. But I'm not going to try and guess what's coming here next. As I said, beyond a point, it doesn't what's that perfect zone, or not, let's not call that perfect, but what's that comforting zone in which I would be a happy investor? Just to answer that, maybe 12,500. If somebody is like putting a gun on my head and saying, "नहीं, एक index बताओ, इसी पे ही मैं पैसा डालूंगा," maybe 12,500, or maybe slightly low.
So I'll take the last question just for you.
Sure.
For long-term investors, what would be your mantra that you give them for 2021?
Okay, yeah. So we discussed that. Let me just put it across, and I'll add some more. One is, please do not, if you're a first-time investor, please do not go all out. Use staggered buying. Use stock-specific approach cannot be emphasized more often. Stock-specific approach leke chale, rather than Nifty's gone up, or Sensex has gone up, and Dow Jones has gone up, and etc. Long-term approach, stay focused, and let's not try and time the market. Over and above this, what I want to highlight and what's been my learning in this volatile year has been that believe in the power of equity, believe in the power of India, believe in emerging economy like India, believe in yourself, believe in Indians, that we have the ability and the confidence and all the experience of our scientists and the doctors to pull back with such force. Believe me, and I, with no disrespect, and if there are 10 negatives, there are 10 positives also that have happened, or possibly even more, because of a COVID year. We have evolved so much, we have learned about ourselves so much. Innovation हम कितना कर सकते हैं, that obviously has seen कितना हम excess flap cut कर सकते हैं, that we have learned, right? And life कितनी normal रह सकती है despite being in a lockdown. You can go out and see the results of second quarter, and you'll agree with me that there is so much positivity all around, and people want to get back to normal life, and we have done that successfully. So let's use every opportunity that comes our way to our advantage, with a view that this too shall pass, right? And we will come out of it unscathed, and therefore my portfolio will grow, will look better far, or will be far more healthier than what it is, let's say, in a correction, or let's say what it was in the month of March, April, or May. Yeah, I guess that's it. Are there any more questions, or we can?
No, we don't have any more questions. Thanks a lot, Jaspreet, for the valuable insights. We've had many comments from people who are saying they loved listening to you. The presentation was extremely well researched. For future, if you have any questions, please send them across to createwealth@researchandranking.com. And please do look out for my emails over the next couple of days. Thank you.
Thank you so much.